One of the bills up for debate in the House of Assembly this week is the amendment to the Public Finance Management Act. This legislation was enacted by the former administration in 2020 to improve fiscal discipline in country. At that time, Chastanet explained that Saint Lucia was lauded by international financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank for adopting fiscal rules and policy that reflect financial transparency, planning, reporting, and accountability. The prevailing question now is whether the proposed amendments by the current regime will hinder the country's chances of receiving financial support from the IMF and other lending institutions. Before Tuesday's parliament sitting, the opposition leader Alan Chastanet defended his administration's decision to implement the Public Finance Management Act and says the proposed changes do not benefit the country.
The amendments that are being proposed today significantly water down the accountability. Now, this is very strange coming from a government that, when they were in opposition, spoke about transparency, spoke about accountability, and fiscal discipline. You all will all remember the statement, something went wrong. The purpose of this act is that so nobody ever has to say that something went wrong. What went wrong is because of lack of fiscal discipline, the state was spending more money on its recurrent expenditures than it was earning. And as a result of it, we were borrowing money to pay for deficits. This act goes a long way in trying to bring guidelines that are by legislation required.
Clause 5 of the bill amends Section 32(3) of the Act to allow the House of Assembly to approve the appropriation bill no later than 30 days after the laying of estimates before the House of Assembly, as opposed to no later than the last day of each financial year. Chastanet suggests that this change is being proposed because the current regime lacks the ability to provide a national budget within a reasonable time frame.
When you see what is being attempted to do today by the government, not because of fiscal prudence, it's being done because of their incompetence. They're not ready to produce the budget. This idea that you should be having a budget approved after the fiscal year approved is not best practices, and leads to the inefficiency of the implementation of a budget.
Chastanet also took issue with the amendment that allows the Minister of Finance to make a reallocation warrant from capital expenditure to current expenditure, saying that this change does not allow for checks and balances to be maintained.
Let me give you an example. If you as a layman went and borrowed money from the bank to build a house, and you decided not to use the money to build a house, but instead you use the money to pay your light bill, to pay your food expenses, and pay for your party, then it means that you would be in breach of the contract with the bank. This is the same thing. And instead of leaving it to the discretion of the Minister of Finance, what the Act attempts to do is to put it in legislation in order to create guidelines so that people now know whether in fact the government is in breach of the rules. So all the Public Finance Management Acts include some kind of provision that prevent governments from transferring capital monies into recurrent expenditures.
All in all, 17 amendments are being proposed in this bill. Chastanet says that these alterations only hinder the budget laying process. Reporting for the Hot 7 TV News, I am Kareem Nelson.